Good evening, everyone. Welcome back for another interview series here at Empire's Comics Vault. We are here tonight to talk to Jim Calafiore, who most notably recently you guys have seen on the shelf this book, but we're going to find out about him, about his career, about his passion for comic books, and about bringing this thing to life and getting it onto the shelves here at Empires and across the nation. So welcome tonight, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us for this. And we were just talking to you behind the stage. You just finished Shang-Chi, which is a lot of fun. And now you need to move into Eternals, but I think we have a while for that.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. You've done a great job on the outreach for this thing, because you have had to do all the heavy lifting yourself for this thing.
Yes.
Which is, well, there's a lot of heavy lifting period in this for you. But before we get to Ned, I'd like to know just a little bit about you and find out a little bit more about what got you started, what got you to this point, and ultimately when your comic reading experiences started.
Reading?
Yeah. When was it?
Well, it's always, but I can remember there was the very first book I bought, where I picked the book instead of, my parents giving me Superman's or whatever they've got from the place where they ripped half the cover off to return.
Nice.
I was in this is going way back. I'm in a luncheonette with my grandfather. This is when, there were no comic shops, and they had, the luncheonettes had the walls with newspapers, magazines, comic books, all the anything up for monthly or weekly sales. And I picked Hulk 127, which was Herb Trimpe drew it.
Ooh.
It featured a character called Mogul, and he wasn't a skier. It was just some weird, bald, strong guy. And that was the very first book I picked out. I mean, Hulk is and was my favorite character. So I grew up on Herb Trimpe Hulk.
That's not a bad place to grow up. That's a name you immediately comes to mind when you think of Hulk.
Oh yeah, yeah. Then the way he got treated at the end of his run was very, very sad. For being an older comic artist myself now, I can relate to the issues he and a lot of guys were going through.
Yeah.
That was my first book. I was a Marvel guy. I was definitely more of a Marvel guy.
I was,
and I spent all of junior high and some of high school, but comic shops started to really come in high school. But junior high, I had to keep going down to the 7-Eleven and just look through their spinner rack. And it's actually amazing that I could get a whole collection of X-Men just by going there every month and finding it on the spinny racks.
That's actually very impressive, because my 7-Eleven, because it's funny, it's always 7-Eleven. It was, for me, it was 7-Eleven and Safeway. I could never find a full run at my 7-Eleven, so I don't know what my guy was doing. But
I was just going there. I probably didn't even know when the comics came out. Like, I probably wasn't even self-aware enough to understand that it was every month. I was probably going there every week and looking through the racks. So, but I mean, it was good on them that they were consistent. The guy kept ordering the X-Men or kept ordering the Hulk.
So from even way back then, this was something that stuck with you immediately when you were a kid, and continued to grow. When did you start doing art then? Like, not professionally, but as a kid, were you putting pen to paper and doing your own stories?
Always I was drawing. I was always into art. And so as far back as I can remember, I was always drawing. I mean, every kid draws, every kid doodles. They're doing little cars and stick figures, but I was always definitely into that. And I don't know what age, making my own little comic books. I always wanted to draw comic books. So I didn't want to paint. I didn't want to be a fine artist.
Okay, so it was a talent, a natural talent that you had. Did you take any schooling or anything to?
Yeah, I didn't get into art classes until like my very last year of high school. I started taking an art class. And that sort of directed me to going to art school. And I went to a art school in Maryland called the Maryland Institute College of Art. That was in Baltimore. And I was there from 81 to 85. I lived in Baltimore for 4 years. And it was, there really wasn't any sort of schools doing comic book art. They had no idea what I was doing. They had illustration, graphic communication, illustration. I majored in graphic communication, so I could also do graphic design, which is what I did for years before getting into comics.
Then my question is, so as somebody who wanted to be a comic artist, even though you do other kinds of art, was there a lot of useful stuff in the colleges back then, like there is now, or did you just kind of have to pick and choose what you could implement?
No, I honestly think it's better that it was an art school that was just everything: life drawing, painting courses, sculpture courses. I mean, my major directed me into more of the illustration courses, the graphic design courses, but it taught me about a lot of different techniques, a lot of different tools, about a lot of different medium, and it wasn't. I was learning the figure. Oh my God, what is that? Snoring?
That is a pug snoring. She's the 14-year-old one, and she has had a very long day down here at the shop. That is not me, I promise. I promise. Okay, so you were able to take quite a bit away from that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and you still do more than just like the pencils and inks. Like, can you go back up to the top there, Ronnie? There's a section off to the side called paintings. Are we on the main website? Oh no, we're on Instagram.
Oh, on my website.
Yeah. On his website. Then never mind. You have these amazing paintings.
Yeah, it's just something I started doing. It came about because I have, if you get that up and hit the paintings, you can actually see there's a picture of my living room.
Yes.
I had a large wall that I wanted to do something on, and I had this idea. I use splattering in the black and whites. I actually do it in the computer to separate out silhouettes and stuff. And I had that idea of separating out the silhouette on black canvas with splattering, using just their costume colors.
Okay.
So Superman is blue, red, and yellow. There's no skin tone. And so I did 12 by 12 canvases in a 4 by 4 grid. So it looks like it has a gallery feel to it. The look of it.
It really does. And you did that just for yourself then?
I did it for myself as an idea, and then I said, maybe I could sell prints. And so I started to make prints of them, and they sold well. And then I was getting a lot of commissions for people who wanted. So when I have my prints, I have over 130 different images.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Look at that. That's amazing.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly definable as to who they are, but the splatter just adds something so special to it.
Got a pop art feel to it. If you can scroll up to the top, back to the top, I think the picture of my that's my living room wall.
That's really cool.
But as soon as I started putting up the prints and bringing paintings with me to shows, I had somebody who commissioned 9 Avengers, a whole bunch of JSA characters. Just about 70 or 80% of what I have comes from commissions.
Okay,
it's fun.
That's really neat. So obviously, are you too busy with the stuff you're working on now, or are commissions open still?
Oh, commissions are open. Just people have to understand it's a couple months, because I am working on Ned 2, while also doing other things like the self-distribution we were talking about.
Yes, so you've definitely got your hands full. Now, on these commissions, just because I know we're going to get some questions later in the shop, are you open to anything?
Well, in my black and whites and my colors and the splatter paintings, but also in the black and whites, yeah, I do any characters.
Okay.
I don't do portraits of people. You sometimes get that at a show. Head sketch. Oh, yeah, okay, I want a head sketch. Who do you want? Can you do my girlfriend? I'm like, no.
You're like, is your girlfriend Mary Jane? Because then I can draw her.
Does this look like a boardwalk? No.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair enough. And they're like, and we want it done in 5 minutes.
Oh, well, yeah. But yeah, anybody can contact me through the website. There's a link at jimcalafiore.com. There's a link for emailing, and it's just I know there's horror stories out there. Bless you. I know there's horror stories out there. People have waited years for commissions from some artists. Hopefully, it wouldn't be that bad, but it is a few months before I can really get to things.
And that's fair. I think most people are pretty lenient with that. They understand that you guys are not only working on your own stuff, but they're not the only commission. So hopefully, people are pretty good about that. But so okay, so you went to art school. You knew you wanted to draw comics. You said you went and did some design while you were trying to I assume you were trying to break into the industry at that point.
Well, my degree basically was graphic communication, and I had done design classes, so it was something to fall back on to go into work in art and advertising agencies, doing design work, ads and stuff. And it was honestly, I wanted to get out of it as soon as I could. I still do design work, I still do logos and stuff, but that's on the side, and I enjoy doing that on the side.
So
Excuse me, but
no, go ahead.
Well, I was trying to get in. I was always trying to get in. My biggest problem was I didn't really know anybody else who was in kind to comics or trying to get into comics. So I was really just flailing at shows with my portfolio, with no connections. And there used to be, how long have you had a shop for?
February will be 20 years.
Okay, so you remember Comic Shop News?
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
The freebie. Okay.
Yep.
So in 88-ish, I think, I got a Comic Shop News, and they had classifieds in the back, and somebody said, "New publisher, I'm looking for artists," and I sent stuff in, and that was before email, so that was send it by mail. They sent it back. They sent back and said they really liked my stuff and they wanted me to do some stuff for them. And that was probably one of the happiest days of my life, just because that's what I wanted to do. The funny little story there is they didn't put their return address on there. And I had lost the ad. Fortunately, they had mentioned one book they had on the stands, and I went to a comic shop, got it, and got their address, and was able to get back in touch with them. Because I just figured that would be my luck. Somebody wants me, and I have no idea how to get in touch with them again.
No, I know, and it's not like nowadays people take it for granted. You just jump on Google, and where are they? No, my God. So who was it?
I can't remember the name of the company. It was a guy named Joseph Doherty. He actually takes credit for my career. He wants kickbacks. The one time I saw him at a show, he folded actually fairly quickly. So I never got to do anything but a couple character sketches for a project he was talking about. But he passed my stuff along to Gary Reed, who was head of Caliber Press.
Oh, nice.
Which was an independent publisher. And this is back during the era when there were a lot more independent publishers. It wasn't just self-publishing. There were more distributors. So people could get noticed. There were distributors that just handled independents as opposed to, I know there's more distributors now, but that's a whole different story. But for how many years it's just been, you hope you get noticed in the back of the Diamond catalog. Yeah. As opposed to having all these multiple distributors. And like I said, even somebody who specialized in independence, shops knew, okay, I want to look at that. I want to look for some independence. And Caliber Press was great. A lot of people started there. Jim O'Barr's The Crow started there. Bendis started there. Mike Lark started there. Guy Davis started there. Vince Locke started there. Phil Hester started there.
Wow.
He had a lot of great people there. It was a really nice place. And I didn't make much. But honestly, I would have paid him to publish me.
So you weren't quitting your day job at that point?
No, I was working at that point. I was working completely freelance. I was picking up illustration and graphic design jobs as I could. I was living pretty thin for a while.
Well, and you were also reaching for the comic dream, which
Yeah.
is not always the case that it gets it found. So from Caliber, where did you go?
One of the guys who worked at Caliber moved to Valiant when Valiant was
Nice.
heyday. And I'm in New Jersey, so it's near New York. And I just took a chance and contacted him and went in and met with Leighton and
That's
a
awesome.
couple of the guys. I actually barely crisscrossed with. I think Shooter was kicked to the curb like the week before I got there.
Just missed him.
But I had a little quick meeting with Barry Windsor Smith, which was very cool because I was such a big fan of Barry Windsor Smith.
That's awesome.
And they started using me, and that was, and then kind of once you're in, people know your name. It's easier, It's not like cold calling editors and just saying, "Could you look at my stuff?" It's hi, Jim Calafiore. Oh yeah. So a few years of Valiant, and then I just slowly segued into the big two.
Nice. And who was first then on the big two? Was it
Very
DC?
briefly at Marvel.
With Marvel? Okay.
I did 3 issues of Force Works and some covers and pinups. That was for the editor over in the War Machine Iron Man office, Nell Yomtov. And at the same time, I got some samples over to DC, and Kevin Dooley, who was editing Aquaman with Peter David, called me to do a fill-in. And then I did another fill-in, and then I was doing more fill-ins, and then eventually I took over the book.
That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. I love to hear that there was what'd you call it? The War Machine / Iron Man office.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. The editors handle group of books.
I know. I just think that's great, especially with the '90s and the just the sheer like War Machine was everywhere. It must have been so fun to be part of that time that was just exploding for comic books.
Well, it was fun at the time, but then when the anvil dropped, and the speculators left, it was a good time for making money.
Okay, yeah,
not a good time for the industry.
No, and I happen to be very lucky to. When I opened the store in 2003, I hit a time where things were starting to go back up. A lot of big things were happening, but I got very lucky to miss. I've talked to some other retailers who were like, "Oh yeah, there were some thin years before that happened."
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people who didn't think the speculators were going to leave. They thought it was going to keep going, and it just didn't.
I don't know how they could think it would last forever. Once these people realized that the books that were selling for $50 the week of were dropping down to, $2, it's got to collapse, right?
Yeah. Well, the speculators are back in now, and
yes.
I hope it doesn't screw the industry up again.
I hope so too. But the nice thing about what's happening now is, again, I obviously don't know the future on this. We're not seeing somebody buying 50 copies of Valiant #1.
Yeah. They're in the back issue market now. That's what they're raping right now.
They're definitely doing the back issues and the variants. When we cleaned out my father-in-law's house, we found my brother-in-law's old comic boxes. And speaking of Valiant, it was literally like 50 copies of each #1.
Turok #1 with the foil square in the middle of the cover.
Stuck in a basement. And then he was like, "I can't use these anymore. You want to take them, Ben?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Well, free comic book day."
That's it. Yeah, here.
Yeah, we'll pass them out.
Turok sold 3 million copies. Here, you can have it for free.
Yes. So you did DC, but then you ended up back at Marvel.
I went back. I bounced around a lot.
Okay.
Or back and forth a lot. I did Aquaman straight for a while, and then I might have done a little, like I did a Resurrection Man or some small things, and then bounced over to Marvel where I started doing Exiles for an editor.
Which has the Exiles, for a book that doesn't come out very often, it created quite a fan base.
It was a great book. I mean, I loved working with Judd. I've been lucky. I've worked with a lot of great writers, and I really enjoyed working with Judd. I liked his style a lot, and he was also very open to, um, I open to my being the artist. You know, I got a reputation as a good storyteller and knowing what I was doing. So, especially working with Peter David, that he was almost doing Marvel style at the time because he was so busy.
Okay.
That was his peak period. Um, but a lot of the writers I work with, they know I know what I'm doing, so
That's good. And I mean, as long
I
as you
can
enjoy
adjust
doing
as I
that and you don't want a hard script,
yeah.
that must give you a lot of room to play around and have fun with.
Yeah, I mean, I have both. I've had complete full scripts, but still the writer knows I know what I'm doing. If I want to change a pacing, I don't change the story. It's changing the pacing, changing the angles.
Nice.
I just
Now,
saw this question on the bottom of the screen. Did we want to?
yes, that's what I was going to get back to since we were still kind of on the topic of the 90s and the other one. Um, there we go. Where do you see the comic culture going, and where do you see yourself in it? Well, we're going to talk about where he's in it right this moment or in a little bit.
Right.
But if you have an answer to that,
I have to be honest. Around the time of DC starting the New 52, I stopped reading.
okay.
I'd get things that people said, check this out, like Saga. I got Saga, and I just keep getting the trades on Saga. People tell me something's good to read, I'll get it. But they're the companies are just chasing their tails so much now, changing the industry, changing the universes
Mhm.
every couple of years. The whole flack with Superboy and Superman lately was I had no problems with what they were doing, but it's just so obvious it was just to get a story on the nightly news. They're chasing the dollar so badly now with changing the universe and rebooting too much that I lose interest.
So obviously you were probably very invested in the Marvel and DC universes, especially from being a kid.
Mm.
And it sounds like you more than anything, you're probably reading Independence at the moment.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
More.
Now,
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten, you know, King's uh, Mr. Miracle
yeah.
trade. You know, I'll pick up things like that. People say this is really good. I'll pick stuff up like that. So I'm still in the mainstream to a certain degree. Um, like when the new Hulk was going, the Immortal Hulk. Somebody said get that. It's a good read. You know, I'll pick things up. But in terms of trying to get in, it seems like getting invested in the characters is almost pointless now because in 2 years somebody's going to change reality.
And that's fair. That's fair. Especially one particular company likes to change it quite a bit. So then, as far as you see yourself in this and the way you see it going, you decided to go Kickstarter for the program or for the graphic novel we're going to talk about.
Yes.
What prompted you to go that way? Because a lot of people are going that way. As a professional and as somebody who's been in the industry for a while, why was that much more viable for you?
Well, it's actually my second um, Kickstarter. The first volume of Ned was my second Kickstarter. Actually, my third Kickstarter. My first Kickstarter was just after they canceled Secret Six for the New 52 relaunch. I had been on Secret Six with Gail Simone. We had a really good relationship, and somebody was talking to me about Kickstarter, and I said, okay, let me look into it. And then I asked Gail if she had an idea she wanted to do, and she had a few, and she ran them by me, and I said, I like this one. And we had a really good success with that in terms of how much we made. Took us a little while to get it out, but we did get it out, get it done. We did the second volume as a mini series at Dark Horse, and there's still hopefully a third book to come. We keep talking about doing another Kickstarter, but so I had confidence that I knew that would do well from Gail's fan base and my fan base and the mutual fan base for Megalopolis. not Megalopolis, sorry, for Secret Six,
Mhm.
and we did Leaving Megalopolis at Kickstarter. And then I got back into doing monthly. I was doing Red Lanterns, and then that ended. I did a Wonder Woman annual, and then I said, I've got this idea I want to do. I'm also 58,
Mhm.
and I'm, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, my wife and I. So I was like, I get back into doing what I was very happy doing comics, and I loved doing some of the projects I did, and some of the projects it was like, meh, it's the check, you know.
That's fair enough.
But when I'm doing something that I've written and drawn, or Gail wrote and I drew, it's all ours, and I'll bust my ass for that. We shipped 4,900 books for Leaving Megalopolis. I shipped every single one. Had no
Wow.
problem doing that. I had no problem doing the sketches for it. I did lower on Ned, but it was still funded and paid for.
Mhm.
We made my goal, and on the second volume, which just got funded a few months ago, um, I'll work my butt off for that because it's mine.
That's fair. Now, is Ned something that has been a project you wanted to work on for a while, or was this something that was fairly recent and that you decided to do it?
In terms of before the Kickstarter, it was fairly recent. I had been kicking around a few ideas. I mean, I have, every artist there has their graveyard of projects they started and never got to. So I have other projects that have been long festering. But Ned was just an idea I had. I was basically running through ideas in my head of the worst people to be blank. Like I had thought of, have you ever seen The Birdcage?
That I have not.
Okay. Well, you know who Nathan Lane is.
Yes.
He plays a very, very flamboyant gay character, but a very nervous one who's like, oh, always hurt no matter what, can be easily in a tizzy. And that was the first idea I thought of was what if he got superpowers, that character. So that was the first idea, but I said, nah, I can't draw that. That probably wouldn't work out well for me. And then I just thought of a character who fish out of water sort of story of a regular guy who just starts seeing demons one day wandering around the street. And nobody else can see him except him. And they see him and they talk to him. And he comes to find out that his family is connected to the dark side of things in ways he never knew. And so then it's a comedy. So it's my sense of humor, my dark, sarcastic sense of humor. And he ends up with, he's got some nasty angels on his tail. He ends up with a zombie roommate, an annoying zombie roommate.
And that is, of course, it right there, which we, of course, have on the shelves. I assume they can get copies from your website as well if they're not in Sacramento.
Well, they should get. Oh, if they're not in Sacramento, if I'm doing two things right now. I'm doing the self-distribution bit, which is how we got in contact with each other. So anybody who's looking for it, go to your comic shop, and if they don't have it, tell them to contact me through my website. Tell them to email me.
I like that. Yes, that's a much better way. Get it on the shelves and make sure they have more copies there for the next person who comes in.
That's it.
I've actually
they don't have anybody listening, watching who doesn't have a comic shop usual that they use, or they usually go online, you can go to nedlordofthepit.com, and that will actually take you to the Indiegogo page, which is still open as a storefront. It's stripped down in terms of what you can get. That's the one nice thing about Indiegogo. I did both Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Kickstarter was the bulk of the money. I threw it up on Indiegogo just to make some extras for stretch goals for like hardcover. On top of that, I know there's people who stay over there and don't do Kickstarter, so I wanted to have it over there for people. And it made much less than the one did at Kickstarter, but it still made enough. And on top of that, their nice feature is they stay open as a storefront. once
nice.
the campaign is over. So I strip out all the things that were available, like artwork and commissions, and it's just volume 1, volume 2, volume 1 and volume 2, and PDFs.
Okay, and speaking of that, because you're doing all of this. You're not only doing the shipping, you're doing the websites. You did everything. It looks like but lettering
Yes,
in this thing. So
everything.
the
Yeah.
colors, the inks, the pencils, the writing. I mean, that's just crazy. And you're doing the outreach because, as he said, everybody, he is reaching out to comic book stores. He contacted me and said, "Hey, I got this book. I know you have customers who will want it," and you were correct. I have. We've had it out on the display stands, and I've had people pick it up and say, "I didn't know this was available anywhere." So they'll say, "I missed the Kickstarter. I didn't know this was available anywhere." So that is really neat.
Well, I had the choice of going to Diamond or try self-distribution, and again, it's my own thing. I started out basically going to local areas in New Jersey, or I would take a ride out into Pennsylvania and do a loop. I drove up to Portland for an event, and I hit comic shops along the way going up to Portland. And at comic shops, I've been bringing extra books and going to vendors who have physical comic shops and talking to them. And then I started the cold calling, and I've done about 6 states so far. And it's a time suck, but it takes me being a salesman. It takes me having a thick skin and following up and doing all those things. But again, like I said, it's my own thing, and I want to do it. It also would be nice to get a little bit of a distribution network set up because I'm doing volume 2.
Yes, and Rupert, I assume you sign them all because the ones that we got, Rupert asks the signature right there in the front, nice, big and bold.
I think I'm offering some nice things for the shops, and I think I'm offering a nice rate, a nice wholesale price for the shops, and extras that they can't get through Diamond.
Yes, like that.
I'm offering to shops that if anybody wants to get a head sketch in a book, because I do the head sketch remarks, your customers can come to you and say, "Oh, it's for I'm only saying for like $50 more." They can get a full head sketch in the book.
Yeah,
and they can have anybody they want from anywhere. You'll email me and I do it and send it out.
See, that's great, and definitely, please, as he's saying, talk to your retailers because when he contacted me, it is a great price for the retailers. We couldn't say no. So thank you very much for making for making it accessible for us as well.
Yeah,
so that's very much.
I'm not losing half to Diamond.
There, yeah, there is that. Yes, that is very true. Now, 2 is funded when. I mean, not that you have a hard date, but when do you think that might be available for people who enjoyed the first?
Well, I'm shooting for mid-2022.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I just discovered in going to talk to all these retailers, and I hadn't been aware of this, prices in printing and paper have skyrocketed. And on top of that, everything's late, or a lot of things are late. I hear that a lot of retailers are putting in Diamond or whatever catalog that this is a tentative date. We're not guaranteeing we're going to get it by this date. Yeah. So, and any quotes I've gotten, quotes don't last from a printer for 7 months, going back to before I did the Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be doing new quotes. So I'm just going to ride it out and see what happens. I know things are going on, and I'm hoping by the time I'm ready to print, it comes back around to being the supply chain recovers.
Fingers crossed.
So there may be some delays there that I have to try and wait for prices to come down a little bit, or even just get in, because if their supply is limited, they're going to feed their cash cows. They're going to get Marvel and DC printed. They're not going to worry about a guy who's printing 1 book so much, or potentially. So I might have to look for a new printer. I might have to look for other printers off to the side, that aren't normally comic book printers. I know a couple guys have had books printed by companies that don't normally do comics, and they did a beautiful job.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, and people will have to be a little patient. We're getting used to being patient in these times. But outside of getting number 2 done, are you already planning something for the future, or are you just completely wrapped up in volume 2 right now?
Well, I'm working on other stuff on the side in my head.
Okay.
Actually, if you hold up the book again, or you look at the book, the character on his T-shirt is another story I'm working on.
Okay. All right. So that could potentially be something that comes up after that.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes, it is. So he had asked, we always ask for something from a professional that you might be able to help people who are trying to do new things and create their own stuff. But he has asked about your process for putting your style on and creating new characters. Do you have anything that might be useful for that?
Well, I think the question was how I
Oh, I see.
So I assume he means somebody calls me to do Red Lanterns.
Yes. Okay.
How to put my style on it. I don't put a lot of thought into it. I just draw it. My style's going to take over.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. It's just going to look, it's going to be the way I draw. I'm also fairly respectful of what's happened before. If they don't want a new costume and a new look, I'm not going to give them a new costume and a new look. But my style will come through. Sort of on Exiles. When I went to draw Morph, that was the very white character who changed into different shapes and stuff. I was drawing from the reference from McCone's issues in terms of what the character looked like. And just out of my hand, he looked a lot different. He was, McCone had drawn him with a very ovally, football shape almost face. Not pointy, but more oval, softer face. And my guy came out of my hand, this very square, lantern-jawed head with these very expressive big eyes. So it's, I know it's going to happen, so I don't think about it too much. If they've asked me to redesign the character, well then, of course, obviously there's a lot of thought that goes into doing the costume.
Okay. Well, this is great that this thing is doing so well for you. And the people are buying it. You guys obviously can find it again on where was it? Indiegogo?
Well, if anybody who doesn't have a comic shop, nedlordofthepit.com.
There we go.
There you go.
Right down there.
Right,
and of course, you want to hit your retailer up and tell them to get a copy of this, get multiple copies, because if you want it, that means other people in your area are going to want it as well. And of course, if you are in the Sacramento area, we've got a couple left sitting on the shelf right now. And please, when volume 2 comes out, make sure you reach out to us.
Oh yes, thank you.
Because now as you said, now that you're building your own network for distribution, that'll make your life a lot easier on the second go around.
Oh, and it's also, I love Kickstarter. I wish it was bigger for creators. There's still so many people who never heard of Kickstarter. When I do show, I make sure I have a campaign go across a couple of shows, and I spend a lot of time explaining Kickstarter to people. So it's unfortunate because it could be so much more of a viable, continuing viable market for a lot of creators, a lot of name creators who have recognition. But I think there's a lot of people who are worried about getting into it, a little hesitant about getting into it.
They're like, why can't I just buy it at your table right now? You're like, no, you got to go to Kickstarter.
But I want to keep doing Kickstarters, and I'm actually have several artists who are talking about doing an anthology through Kickstarter. So it's nice to have the comic shop, any comic shop contacts I'm making set up in that way. That's
great. I mean, it sounds like it's dang it, Dylan. It sounds like it's a good way for you to get your book out there.
Yes.
And of course, when volume 2 is done, we're going to want to get some in the shop, and anything else that goes up, please feel free before it even hits Kickstarter to let us know.
That's going to be my plan with volume 2 when I'm ready to go to the printer, contacting as many shops as I can. But I still have to contact all the other shops about volume 1 still. I still got about 42 states to go through.
Good God.
Yeah, It's interesting. I got a headset, everything. I have a headset hooked up to my phone. I sit working, drawing at my table while doing my pitch.
Yeah, you got your elevator pitch down.
Oh
keep
yeah,
them
yeah.
engaged.
I've got it memorized just about.
Sweet.
So basically, what I said to you on the phone is straight through.
Yeah. Nope, I don't doubt it. Well, it works.
Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's harder. When I say, hi, I'm Jim Calafiore. I'm an artist. I've been working in the industry 30 years. Some retailers go, Jim, yes. Oh, no, I know who you are. I love your stuff. And other people just go, uh-huh.
Like, and
so then I go into my credits and,
excellent.
And then some after the credits, like, oh, right. Yes. Okay. I went one of the shops I walked into on one of these trips. There was a couple in the back at the register, behind the counter. And I said, hi, are you the owners? And they said, no, we just work for the person on the weekends. We help out. I'm like, oh, okay. And I gave my pitch. And I get to the end of the pitch and they go, oh, okay. Hi, Jim. Yes, we are the owners. We just didn't know who you were.
That's amazing. That's great. They're just they're triaging.
They're worrying about, is this some solicitor? Who the hell is coming for?
No, I mean, I've been guilty of something like that too, I suppose. So I can't hate, especially when somebody calls me on a Tuesday when I'm doing receiving. They'll be like, is the owner there? I'll be like, no, can I take a message?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's I also learned when I call, I can't say, hi, is this the owner?
Ah, okay.
I have to say, hi, my name is Jim Calafiore. I'm an artist.
Oh, you just get right in. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, because that's the hallmark.
If I say, hi, is this the owner? It's like, maybe. Who's this?
Yeah. Well, you definitely have it down. You definitely do.
Yeah, and I enjoy visiting the shops too. It's fun. I mean, your shop looks fantastic. I'd love to get there someday.
Oh yeah, where are you out of?
New Jersey.
Oh, you're still in New Jersey. Okay, then if Sacramento's probably not a destination.
No, I'll be out in San Diego, but it's still a long way to go from San Diego up to Sacramento.
Yes, well, if you're doing San Diego when things get back to normal, I never do a booth for the store.
Right.
I hate doing cons. I absolutely hate it. But I still go to cons, so I'll have to stop by and at least say hi to you.
Are you going to be at special edition?
I am not, unfortunately.
Okay, that's what I'm going for. I also have a booth every year for the regular show, and that's all my paintings, my rig with all the splatter prints. It's like the rig is 13 feet high and 11 feet across.
Wow,
it's a lot of stuff.
Well, then it'll be easy to find you.
It's nice going into shops, and it's nice when they recognize who I am and they appreciate that I've come in, and it's fun. And I'll just sign any books they've got in the shop that they want me to sign too.
That's cool. That is very nice. You take the little extra time and extra step for them.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially if they're willing to carry. I mean, I appreciate the hell out of you being willing to carry the book. I appreciate it. Take a chance on it.
Yes, most definitely. And like I said, we've made some people happy who didn't know where they could get it. So this worked out really, really well.
I've had a couple of reorders, which is nice.
Good. And 42 more states to call.
Yeah, maybe 40. Some of the states I'm driving to, it's it is a lot. I'm actually taking a break till after December I think I'm going to start in the new year calling again in January.
Okay, good. Take a little break for you, and then still work on some art and some books.
Right, I got to put a good dent in Ned, and also I've started doing shows again now, so that's taking up some time.
Nice. Well, hopefully hopefully anyone else who sees this along the way will stop by and say hi, take a peek at your splatter paintings, check out Ned, and of course, just support you in any way that they can. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really nice to actually sit down and talk with you off of the phone. And I am looking forward to seeing what you can do with Volume 2 and seeing when we can get this in our hands.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, of course. All right. Don't forget, you guys want to check out this book in particular, although, you can look at some of the other stuff as well. But this one, you want to go into your retailer and tell them that it is available for them to order in bulk to make sure all of their customers are taken care of. And of course, if you are here in Sacramento, we have it on the shelf. And a lot of you probably didn't even know that it was available outside of the Kickstarter, as I've learned. So please ask us about it. I'll point you in the right direction. You can take a peek. And of course, Thank you very much, Jim. It was great talking to you. And I'm always happy to support the independents. So please let us know when there's new stuff, and we will see all of you in the shop.